Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Esteemed FaceTime with Leaders, an initiative by World Development Corporation. I am Sunny Pancholi, anchor at World Development Corporation. FaceTime with Leaders is a platform for industry titans to share their experiences, thoughts, ideas, and best practices in order to inspire one another and future leaders. In a nutshell, we attempt to encapsulate the multi-decadal learnings acquired by these industry leaders. We also hope that by conducting these FaceTime with Leaders interviews, we can bring together a global community of eminent personalities. By bringing together such visionaries on one platform, we hope to play a part in inspiring the lives of other leaders. Great learnings from great leaders undoubtedly assist everyone by identifying, nurturing, and using the trade secrets that are proven success formulas for many. And this is what we aim for with these sessions, by making them a gathering of industry stalwarts and a knowledge-sharing community. We have one such industry titan on FaceTime with Leaders with us today, Ms. Praveen Rikhy. She is a highly accomplished and widely recognized PR professional with over 4 decades of experience. Currently, serving as the Chief Consultant at PR Square Consultants, Ms. Praveen has played a pivotal role in shaping and leading the PR movement in India. She is regarded as one of the top PR professionals in the country and has a strong track record of success in consulting major national and international companies, brands, governments, and NGOs. Welcome to FaceTime with Leaders, Ms. Praveen.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here.
So, Ms. Praveen, could you please let our viewers know about your journey of founding India's first PR agency and reaching the position of Chief Consultant at PR Square Consultants?
Sure. So I started my career in a chamber of commerce. I mean, as soon as I finished my PG, I got into this chamber where I was running some industry associations and doing what, normal economic, officers do in chambers, running associations. I had the Delhi Factory Owners Federation, and a couple of others were confectionery manufacturers where, I was looking after the bread and the biscuit manufacturers association of India. And I received this lovely booklet. It says, this is the obituary of the sugar industry. Obviously, as a user industry, I was, fascinated, got into it. And then I realized that this is actually talking about the problems that the sugar industry was facing in the country. And I thought it was an ingenious way of putting across all the issues, that they needed addressing, both the state governments, the center governments, what was the problem at the local government. That was interestingly done, very, very brilliantly done. And I started going into it, where and how and who produced this. And that's when I met Mr. Kaul. He had just taken retirement from ONGC as the head of PR of ONGC and started this as a consultancy. And I, by then I had spent a couple of years in the chamber and I realized what we could do for the industry and what we couldn't sitting in those chairs and what the industry actually needed. And I felt that this was something that the industry really needed. So I told him, I said, I'm going to join you. And we're going to really roll this out as a service. And that's how we started Melco. So there's been really no looking back. It's fascinating. It was a lovely time as well. India was opening up. We had, I'm talking, late 80s, early 90s. The economy was opening up. The Indian industry was, faced with these new challenges. So the first couple of years, all we did was public affairs for various industries. One, because I came from that background, and so I knew that entire industry very well, and we had handled, successfully, required policy changes for some of the industries. So, one after the other, the Vanaspati industry, the paper mills, the sugar mills again, the Vanaspati mills. I mean, they kept going on. And so one of another industry associations that came to us at that point was MATE, which was Manufacturers Association of Information Technology. And they were facing major resistance because nobody thought IT is for India. I'm talking of the time when we used to have strikes, and the bank employees would go on strike against computerization because they thought that, IT is going to take away all the jobs. And, so there was major resistance both at the policy level and at the public level. And so, they were being shooed out of the, so that was a public affairs campaign that we handled for them as to how to actually showcase what IT industry can do for the country, and that, witness the industrial revolution, and let's not miss the IT revolution. That was a slogan that we ran that campaign against. And that brought me in touch with, with the tech companies, and, it was fascinating, what they were doing, what new products were coming in, what new technologies were coming in. So then that led on to me setting up and leading the tech practice. I mean, I'm not a tech person, but so I set up the first tech practice of the country and ran it for 12 years till we actually got the typical IIT guy, to run it. And so it's been very, very fascinating. And, that led us into, again, the changing environment, with the larger, because all the large IT companies were entering into India. They needed policy change. So therefore we were working with governments across. So therefore, once you started working with the governments across, then you started looking at the larger problems that the governments were facing, because they all wanted a pie of the Indian economy, right? So they, so then we set up, a government. So we handle a lot of overseas governments who are looking at getting, talent from India, investments from India, getting the markets opened, so all of those things that we started doing. So, and then that led us into, of course, once you start doing that, because governments have a very larger outlook, if I may say so. So, so we got into infrastructure, then we started looking at, water, we started looking at, civic services, we started looking at environment, and that's how it kind of grew. And then we started working with NGOs. So NGO work, but we were always supporting NGO work in the country, because we already supported some of the NGOs on a pro bono basis to get, help them get their message across. That brought us in touch with Rainforest Alliance, and that started our journey. My journey, at least on, this entire sustainability and responsible corporate actions, and that was very, very fascinating. So yeah, it's been very interesting.
Thank you for the excellent start to this interview, Ms. Praveen. Your exceptional interpersonal skills are truly impressive, and it's an honor to interact with someone who exudes such a great, strong personality. Okay, continuing our conversation, we would like to know, as you have taken numerous groundbreaking initiatives, what has been your biggest motivation behind all the pursuits?
Interesting. See, I don't know, maybe I'm a maverick and I get bored very easily. So in fact, in the chamber, and I would just dictate my agenda and minutes together, because it was so predictable. And so I tend to get bored very easily. So one of the things that's kept me going is that in PR, there is no 2 days alike. You're always dealing with new subjects, you're dealing with new challenges, you're dealing with new people, new technology. You're always introducing new stuff into the country, right? Going from where when we were told, railways mein koi kaam nahi karega. That's banks will have no people required. So from that kind of thing to, you manage to address fascinating topics. Why would we want this service? How would it benefit the country? How will you start looking at, products, brands, technologies, and interpreting them in the Indian context, and, making sure that, they are well received, so it's because it's been so challenging and it's been so new. I got an opportunity to meet, thankfully in this line, you meet only the top bosses. So the brains that I got to meet, over my, my daughter is always telling me, Mama, koi aisa hai jisko aap nahi mile ho, So it's been very interesting because one, we were one of the first in the country, and India was coming on the world map. So we got to meet the brains, and that is what kept me going, because once you interact with people who are actually changing the way business is done, and or what business is done. I mean, I remember sitting with this gentleman, and he was telling me, and we were talking about what's happening in the IT industry, and multimedia at that time was the new thing. And he turned to me and said, but multimedia is not complete. So I'm looking at him, and he says, you can't smell. So those are the kind of people who are fascinating, and so therefore it kept my interest alive. This line has kept my interest alive. So every day I'm dealing with, new subjects, because my content is never the same. My tools remain the same. So that's been interesting, and it's been very, very fascinating, very, very challenging.
Okay, so building on that, Ms. Praveen, what advice would you like to give our viewers today?
Oh, fascinating. See, one, nothing, basics don't change. Okay. One thing that I, used to, and my my managers and my practice leads used to dread taking me to the client, because I would tell them, what do you need PR for? Okay. I'm not your bhopu, and I'm not a whitewash. This is the way I used to start my meeting. Okay. So if there is a need beyond this for PR, talk to me. Okay. So that's something they need to understand. See, if any organization, if you don't talk about yourself, somebody else will. And then the panwala in the corner will interpret you. You probably is not going to like what he's going to say about your organization. Okay. So you need to tell whoever you need to tell, all your audiences, whether they are employees, your stakeholders, your customers, the policy makers, the decision makers, you need to tell them what to think about you. Right? How do you decide that? You don't go to them when you're having a crisis. Yeah. You go to them when things are going very well, and you know exactly what you're doing, why you're doing it, how you're doing it, and for whom you are doing it. Yeah. Those are the things that you tell. And what we call in PR, what we call the message house, that describes what your corporate image is going to be. And then that is, supplemented with proof of concepts. Okay, so when I'm talking, I'm an organization that makes great products, and then proof of concept will come from different products that we manufacture, and we'll showcase that. So today, when you are interpreting organizations, not only for your existing stakeholders, but for your future stakeholders. Today, the question being asked is, what is the business that I'm doing today how is it going to impact the future generations? Once you have to do that, then your message house has to expand. So you need to interpret what you're doing, how you're doing, why you're doing it, how well you're doing it, and how does it benefit the immediate community, the environment, and how does it take care of how does it protect the world and keep it safe for our future generations? You need to interpret that. Now, unless you start doing that when things are going, well, you cannot do that when you're in a crisis. So that's why it's very, very important. And then more and less, over the last 30, 40 years that I've been practicing, I've seen PR, come from, being an afterthought. And in a way, it's become a CEO level activity. Okay. Now more and more organizations are recognizing the need to make it a board level activity. And that's what is fascinating, because now business strategies need to be much larger than they need. Earlier, we were talking of, communities, the stakeholders were smaller in impact. that impact has increased. I mean, we're talking, a global village. I mean, what I say here impacts my company, my client's business in China. So it's so the impact of what you're doing is much larger, and therefore you need much more strategic programs and plans, and understanding at the board level that can then be translated in the organization level. I hope I answered your question. I think I went off in a major tangent.
Absolutely, absolutely. So here is my next for you. And since we were talking about the future generations, and you mentioned sustainability. So how and when did you develop an interest in sustainability?
So one of the organizations that, I told you we started an NGO practice, and therefore, we started working with Rainforest Alliance. And we had I had the opportunity of representing Rainforest Alliance as their communication person in India. They did not have a large enough team at that point in time. One said, if I had to do that, therefore I need to understand their business. Typically as an agency, you don't really get into the business of a client. But here, since I was going to be the spokesperson, I needed to get in. And therefore I actually visited tea estates across Assam. I saw, Darjeeling, because a lot of the work that they do in India is tea and coffee. Okay. And I saw firsthand of the difference that Rainforest Alliance certified estates were making to the lives of their workers, to the life of the community, to just the way the forests were managed in the area, the environment was managed, the impact on wildlife in the area. We are talking Assam, you're talking elephant corridors, running through tea estates, versus the tea estates that were not doing that. And therefore, the business sense of sustainability started, presenting itself to. And that's how I really got into this. And I said, and this can be applied to various industries, because, coming from the background that I did, so that's been a very, very fascinating journey on how can different organizations actually adopt these processes, not only, to make sure that, they don't get into crisis in terms of compliance, but just how they can do their business better.
Rightly said, Mr. Praveen. Okay, so here is next for you. As an ESG and corporate governance expert, what values do you offer to the corporate world?
My values come from my experience, which is, helping organizations interpret their relevance to the society, okay, to your various stakeholders, to the society, whether it's your employees, whether it is your customers, whether it is your suppliers, whether it is the government. Here we are talking now, and with the millennials, we all know that, sustainability, corporate governance for them is a given. Okay. Earlier, when I started, 30, 40 years ago, if we turned around and said, we are an honest business, it was considered, oh, great. And if you could prove to be honest, it was considered a very good image platform. Today, they'll say, if you're not honest, you're not allowed to exist. So these are given. Okay. And the need to showcase your corporate governance policies, your sustainability policies, in your philosophy, in your vision, in your day-to-day business, it's never like, it's critical. You cannot exist without. Therefore, what I bring to the table is I bring to the table the sensitivity of how to interpret that as part of your corporate image, of your corporate reputation, of part of your vision. How do you take it down, in the organization level so that it becomes a part of your corporate culture?
So, Ms. Praveen, since technology is an integral part of our lifestyles, and we cannot imagine our lives without it. Here is my next for you, which is and how does it impact the overall scenario, overall sectors in PR and others? What are some of the most remarkable changes you have seen in your field with the changes in technology, and what changes do you expect to see with the advent of technology like IoT, AI, ML, blockchain, big data, Web 3.0, etc.?
So very interesting. Okay, I have when I started Milko, we were working out of typewriters. Okay. Okay. So yes. So one of the best things that technology has done, it's made work and life so much simpler. Okay. I could never imagine, servicing, my clients who are all over the world and all over the country sitting in my home. It was a dream, right? I remember launching e-services for HP, when they were shifting from being a hardware company to an e-services company. And we talked of a concept called Cool Town. Okay. And we talked about the fact that, you would be able to plan your departure from home depending, because you would have got an alert ki bus pahunch raha hai bacche ka, all of those kind of things. And we were considered crazy, saying, what the hell are you guys talking about? Okay, so yeah, first and foremost, technology has made life so much easier. Okay, technology has changed our content. Okay, so I used to I've supported Seagate, which is the hard disk drive, where your storage lies, guys, for over 17, 18 years. Okay. And I remember launching the first 1 gigabit drive, 1 GB, okay, for a computer. And a question being raised in the press conference saying, why would anybody need so much storage? Okay. And the speaker went on to explain how we are all going to become content creators. And then, of course, within 5 years, we launched the 1 TB drive, right? So that's how content. So the impact on delivery, the impact on content. Today, media has changed. Okay, today, when I started working, if you were great at writing English, it was good enough. Today, you need to, and I'm talking, videos are a part of any given communication today. Okay, these were unheard of. So one, content has changed, your reach has changed. Okay, and the most important, I think, all these new trends that you talked about, big data, it gives us so much more reliable information, especially when I am supposed to inform about an organization's impact on future generations. I cannot do it without relying on big data. Okay, so all of these technological changes need to be adapted into all our lives, right? In whatever field you are practicing. So whether blockchain is relevant for me, I don't, maybe it's not so relevant in communication, but it is definitely relevant to the organizations that I support. For instance, when I'm working with a financial services company, okay, so technology is an enabler. Okay, technology adaptation is a given. You cannot survive without it. How many organizations would have said before the pandemic that they could actually survive without having any employee in the organization for 6 months? Right? Technology enabled that. Some did it easier, some did it, in a crisis now more, but they all did it. Okay, and the tools were available to us. What did that do? Today, I'm holding consultations with organizations as to what does it mean to build your corporate culture in a virtual organization. because virtual organization earlier did not exist. Corporate culture was something that you practiced after you entered the gate of your organization. Ab to gate enter hi nahi karte ho na. So how do you change that? What do you do to your, how do you onboard new employees? How do you onboard new spokespersons? How do you onboard new stakeholders? And that has to run down the organization, and all that is enabled only through technology.
So we are building a community of industry magnates. The move is meant for cross-pollination of knowledge and building a knowledge-sharing community of corporate giants and industry experts. So what are your thoughts about these initiatives taken by Mr. Zishan Pathan, Mr. Heval Mehta, and the whole team of WTC?
This is brilliant. In fact, this is a human service, to the corporate world. Okay, because typically what happens is that, when you reach my stage, I'm post 60 now. So you reach one stage and you start thinking, I'm going to take it easy because I don't want to do travel. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. What happens is all that experience. Okay. And I'll start doing some do good, like I'm doing a lot of work with NGOs now. Okay. Because I enjoy doing that. Okay. But and a platform like this gives me an ability to continue to leverage my expertise, in the new, because otherwise what do? You sit over a wine glass and you do tapsara, So this gives us an effective tool to actually, continue to make a difference, to share our ideas, to share our views, to give our interpretation on the way things are developing, and maybe, offer that capability to organizations who could benefit from it. So I think it's a brilliant platform, and it's a brilliant initiative.
Ms. Praveen, your expertise and passion for the subject matter were evident throughout the interview, and it was inspiring to witness your dedication to excellence, really. Fantastic conversing with you, and I'm confident that your insights will inspire the future leaders. So thank you so much for joining us today. Wish you the best for your future endeavors.
My pleasure. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure talking with you.
Thank you so much. Have a nice day.
You too.